Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're looking at NBA best bets here on Wednesday with a nice robust slate, 9 games to choose from tonight. We've also got an episode up with player props in there for you, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along throughout the rest of this season with us. Pretty good night last night. Finally swept the best bets. First sweep in a little bit, a couple of weeks since the sweep on the best bets specifically. Been crushing the player props, but happy to bring along those best bets. So let's keep it rolling here, Nate, with this big slate and get into your first look for tonight.
Yeah, another little alt parlay that is, I think, pretty conservative, which is Bucks down to -1.5 in NOLA and Giannis to go 40 plus PR points rebounds. You get slightly better odds if you take him 30 plus points, which I think is also very likely, but by the averages, the PR is even more likely because he's been like a 12 rebound per game guy, and maybe he falls just short of the 30 points, but 30 is very likely against this Pelicans team. That's the worst paint defense in the NBA. Also, the second worst on corner threes, second worst fast break points, the worst defensive rebound percentage in their last 10, giving up fourth most second chance points. So there's some correlation here that Giannis is going to be cleaning stuff up, dominating down low. He has matched Zion or just taken advantage of Zion's lack of interior defense, averaged 36 in 35 minutes in 6 career matchups against Zion. The Bucks won 5 straight before losing to the Pels last March. We know that the Bucks were a complete mess last March, and they're on track now. I wouldn't mind just taking the normal spread here at 5.5. It's been bet down from 8.5 to 5.5 in favor of the Pels because they've been playing a lot better lately, but that at least gives me a lot of faith that Giannis is going to get a full slate of run here because he's gone 30 plus in 6 of his last 8 road games. The exceptions were a blowout win and a blowout loss to your Knicks. So as long as it's full run, yeah, you see the stats really take off when Giannis gets full minutes. When he's on extra rest this year, 36% usage, 31 and 13. And last year also averaged about that same, but on 33% usage. So you see they're playing through him even more. He's even more determined to get to the rim. He's really expanded his bag too, kind of on the low block. And without Herb Jones in there, like who are they going to stick on him? Yves Massey, Daniel Tice, right? This is why they're the worst paint defense in the league, the Pelicans. So Giannis is just going to eat, and that should lead to a Bucks win.
It should, yeah. I think the thing is, I'm waiting on this one because I do want to know if Zion's going to play. There's no way Zion's going to have the level of success against the Bucks that he's had against some poo-poo down low teams as of late when he's played a couple games and scored like a point a minute and had like a rebound every other minute. It's pretty crazy. So he's taking advantage of that stuff, and that's the problem with betting on and around Zion Williamson is that when he's out there, he's capable of a point a minute. And we've seen that throughout his career. It's just, is he going to be out there? So if he is out there, look, regardless, I love this play. So you made this safe regardless of the Zion news. So I'm totally good with the way you play this already. If Zion is out, I'm going right to that Bucks spread at 6.5. I don't care. The Bucks are cruising right now in a good way. There's been a lot fewer minutes for the Andre Jacksons of the world as of late, and a lot more Chris Middleton, which does help. And they've sort of been able to get that defense short up with Taurean Prince playing out there as opposed to a guy like Andre Jackson. So they're not giving up stuff on offense anymore for their defense. And I like the trajectory that they're on right now, especially with the way my guy Brolo is playing. Let's just keep putting respect on his name, please. Brook Lopez absolutely dominating down there. But Cleveland and Houston, 2 of the best teams in the league. I'm going to go over in their matchup in Houston there in Texas, 230.5, slightly bet down from 232.5. Was talking to a couple of folks last night about it, some guys that I trust for sure in the betting world, and they were talking about Evan Mobley being out, and I was trying to do the math, and I was like, Evan Mobley is so much more important than I even realized. I've never really given him the credit, and to be fair to me, this is the first year that Evan Mobley is like taken that leap into I'll just bully anybody who's on me that's too small, and I'm going to guard 1 through 5 as well as anybody in the league. And that's the key here for the over is the 1 through 5 versus anybody in the league. He's not around to do that. So that's a really good starting point for me. It also means more Dean Wade, which means more 3-point shooting, probably going to see a few more Sam Merrill minutes. Karis LeVert is questionable, which honestly, better defender than we're going to see from a couple other guys, although maybe Max Strus will step up the D. I don't know. There's going to be a lot more shooting and a lot less defense on the floor for Cleveland.
You're
Let's
gonna
put
get
it
the
that way.
minivan in there, bang bang Niang.
And Bang Bang Niang as well, who, slow footed as he is, can hit that spot up three. But yeah, he ain't going to be covering anybody like an Amin Thompson, for example. And that was what drew me to this, was like, oh, I'm sorry, who's guarding Amin Thompson in this matchup? Because that was totally going to be Evan Mobley's job, and that ain't going to happen anymore. So that's just going to mean a lot more transition. The Cavs are an over team this year, Nate. They're 14-5 to the over on the road. They're also over at home, but they play way better defense at home. On the road, their games are averaging 237 points per game because they're scoring a buck 22 regardless of the venue, but they're giving up like 5-6 more points per game, or 6 more points per game at home, or on the road versus at home. Their D rating on the road for the Cavs is 114.5 versus 108 at home, right? Which is some Memphis Grizzlies grind city stuff at home. But with no Evan Mobley, like I said, more threes, less D, more Dean Wade minutes for sure. Who, by the way, is not a turnstile. Like, Dean Wade is a decent enough defender, but he's not quick enough to stay in front of Amin Thompson. I think we know that's going to be a mismatch. Houston, in their last 10, right? We've seen Amin Thompson come into the starting lineup in the last roughly 7 or 8 games. Amin's a stud. I don't know if we're talking about him. I don't think we have him in player props, but like, I'll be monitoring his props today because I don't think there's a good matchup on the other side of the floor, and I think there's minutes coming. But when you've got Amin Thompson and Tari Eason playing instead in place of guys like Jabari Smith Jr., who's now been out for like 7 or 8 games, and look, Jabari's athletic; he can get up and down the floor. But Amin Thompson and Tari Eason are the dudes getting into transition the most for this Houston Rockets team. Not to mention, now we've got more Cam Whitmore minutes as well, who is just shot out of a rocket every time he's on the court. So yeah, the pace is going to get up when you look at Amin and Eason on the floor together. The Rockets are at 104 pace with just that 2-man lineup right there when they've been on the floor for a good amount of minutes this season together. And I mean, as much as we love to think of these teams as two offensive juggernauts, the last 10, Cavs 22nd in defensive rating, Houston 14th in defensive rating. On the season, the Cavs are 9th and the Rockets are 3rd. So they're both playing well below their normal averages there on defense. I think we'll continue to see that up and down flow here today. And I'm also saying I really think the Rockets to make to Western Conference Finals right now. I'm believing in this team a lot more than I initially thought. Once I see them, Ime kind of stop using just depth as his strength and start increasing the minutes of his starters to get them all up to about 34 plus minutes, I think this team is ready to make a playoff run this season.
To make the West Finals, you said? Not the actual finals.
I said West.
Yeah. Yeah, it still depends on the draw. Like, I don't think they get past Jokic if they draw that. Yeah, because he just suns Şengün all day. But no, I like this look. I thought about it initially and then didn't want to take another Rockets over because I did that on Monday. But what I overlooked there was that was a 1:00 Monday start time. And
MLK, yeah.
We had unders all around on MLK Day because it's not like, I mean, that happens a lot on weekends, early starts too, but like especially a Monday early start. I think guys just did not have that sharpness to them and that energy. This should be a full-on war. We talked about the Cavs like averaging 130 against the West. They're playing so much faster without Mobley, and they're going to be so much more vulnerable defensively without him. So, yeah, definitely like this look here. Let me go down to Memphis. Charlotte and Memphis, somehow in different conferences, but border war. Let me take the Grizzlies, just smack them. It's minus 11.5 at the moment. It was minus 12. I'm fine with that. They I kind of self-filtered for tomato cans for the Grizzlies at home. 8 matchups since the start of November. They are plus 124 against the spread. And yes, I included your Golden State Warriors in there, who they beat by 49. Oh, I'm sorry, 49 against the spread there, covering by 15.5 per game. That does not even include these 5 covers in that span against the Lakers, Pacers, Pistons, Kings, and Mavs, who are all, mediocre to good teams. And so now you're getting maybe a little bit of value as they come off a loss to Houston and a tough win over Minnesota. And now they just get Charlotte, which is coming off back-to-back wins. Am I reading that correctly? Yeah. Yeah, against Utah and against Dallas. And again, an 11 a.m. start time on Monday, where the Mavs shot 18% from 3. Charlotte capitalized. They had 11 more threes, and they won the game somehow because that's 3-point variance. But they gave up 60 paint points, and they also gave up 62 paint points in a win against Chicago and 40 to your boy Vooch, who doesn't usually bully anybody. So as good as Mark Williams has been on the offensive end, like they've turned into a sieve with him on the defensive end. They've gone from average to giving up 57 paint points with him in the starting lineup here. And that's bad news against the Memphis Grizzlies, who are pretty much full strength here with Ja going at you 100 miles an hour. They are number one in paint points, fourth in offensive efficiency at home. Defensively, they shut down the three, number one 3-point defense, third best overall efficiency. They have beat up on bad teams, as I mentioned, 12-3 ATS versus the East, and no Brandon Miller here, which is going to matter more than it has the last couple. They lost 7 straight without him prior to those wins that I mentioned with the troubling stats that I think will carry over here and just allow Memphis to just hit the gas and win this one by 20 plus.
Yeah, I can easily see that. I'll be talking about LaMelo Ball a little bit in the player props. Don't think this is a matchup for LaMelo Ball. They're an interesting defense because they play so damn fast as a team that they do get up and down the court, and their sort of raw numbers aren't as good as their efficiency numbers. But that's what matters. They're playing games at the same speed as their opponent. I mean, they're pushing the pace, but the opponent's still trying to get up there with them. And as a result, they're usually in a good spot to limit everything other than really like transition points to a degree. But like Charlotte ain't. This isn't the Charlotte that we remember just going up and down, playing at the fourth fastest pace and no defense. Like it's actually a little bit better at defense and just a lot slower and choppy on offense for Charlotte. So if LaMelo's not hitting 32-foot threes, then Charlotte really doesn't have a shot. That's really and to be honest, they've been better without him at times as the offense has looked less clunky. But let me go over to a game, man. Sac -7 against Golden State. I mean, I want to bet on this game in some fashion. The Dubs are so hard to read, but the reason I went with the spread and not even trying to touch the total is they're not good. It's hilarious to listen to Bay Area radio and talk about being a player or two away from contending, Nate, much less making the playoffs. They're talking about contending out here like they have a shot. I'm like, how does a team lose by 40 points four times in one season expect to be one player away from contending for a title? But
well, if that player is LeBron James, like Wilbon's calling for, then maybe that'll move the needle.
If that player was LeBron James 10 years ago, okay, or even 4, but come on, man. Yeah, I agree. I hear what you're saying there. And also KD's been floated around, which would be hysterical. Bringing KD back, whatever. More to the point here. Also, Phoenix due for some positive regression. Didn't have anything for them today, obviously, but like if you look at their shot quality index, they're essentially the unluckiest shooting team in the NBA right now. Over the course of the last 15 games, something's going to turn around for them. I'm not quite ready to just put them in the coffin yet necessarily, but back to the other two teams in the Pac division here. It's a rivalry for sure, and it's one where in the past, really the last couple of years, we've just gone, well, Steph gone Steph against this team, so let's just put him down for 35 and about 8 made threes, and that should cover it here for Golden State. Well, guess what? Steph has hit 8 threes 5 times this season. They've won twice, so they're losing more than they're winning when Steph hits an inordinate amount of a historical amount of threes in a game at this point. And right now, the biggest thing for me on offense for them is they're relying on offensive rebounds and they're relying on above the break threes. They've got the fifth worst above the break 3 field goal percentage over their last 10 games, and they're taking the second most because that's where you got Buddy Hield, Lindy Waters, Steph Curry, all just pulling from out there, as we know. It ain't working, man. And for the Kings at this point, they actually are a lot better against the above the break 3, especially because they're better against the pull up 3. They're very bad against catch and shoot, and we know that. But at the same time, in terms of defending the catch and shoot, that they're basically bottom 3 throughout the season, giving up the amount of frequency of catch and shoot. But this Dubs team, as much as they love to move the ball, also relying a lot off that pick and roll ball handler play on this season, scoring the majority of their points off that, including Steph, who at times has actually come off of screens better than he has and scored in isolation. He's not doing that right now. And the fact that they are 5-5 in their last 10 with the 22nd ranked strength of schedule and are in that time frame are hosting the fourth worst defensive rating as well. They don't have the offense to pull them out of this. They don't have the offense to pull them out of the turnovers. They're also not good in the turnover department, 22nd in turnover percentage. They're getting to the line the least in the NBA as well, unsurprisingly, because there's one guy left on the floor in Andrew Wiggins that is actually driving to the hoop more than 5 times a game. Let that sink in. There's nobody driving to the rim for this team more than 5 times a game. You're not attacking the rim. You're not going to put any pressure on this team to force them to not guard the 3. They're going to just press up on the 3, force you inside, and there's nobody there scared once they get there. And Sac is still in the top 5, limiting points at the rim, limiting points in the paint. they are limiting points to centers, and even on the drive play, I can't get exact data on how they defend drives, but I know that when you get to the rim against this team, they're good this season. And we've always made fun of Alligator Arms Domas Sabonis for not being able to defend that paint. And this season, for whatever reason that I still haven't been able to put my finger entirely on, they are one of the best teams limiting stuff around the rim.
Yeah, no Domas slander on this pod. He's going to appear in player props, and I mean, he's tough, one of the toughest dudes around. I mean, yeah, him and Jokic just know how to kind of play angles, mess with your head a little bit, make you miss shots in the paint occasionally, or they just go get you on the other end. And Domas 8+ assists in a win is plus 225. I think that's a fine look. Plus 600 for the triple double in a win. He has definitely dimed up and dominated against this Warriors team, and with Draymond and Kuminga out, where we talking about old man Looney for like 15 minutes and Trace Jackson Davis, he should be the reason that they once again, win this rivalry game. It is rivalry week right now. So,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Sabonis has had it out for this team since the Draymond stepped on his chest thing. And yeah, I like him to lead the way here. If you're going to bet the Warriors and fade this in any way, like you might as well take a parlay with Steph, right? Because like you're saying, like he's going to have to hit 8 threes, 30 points, just like go bananas for them to have any shot. Because just right now they are below mid, as he said.
They are, man. It's tough. And yeah, I think even like a Steph 30 points and a loss for the Dubs is not out of the rim. I mean, even if you just go like 20, take an alt under, because you're going to get that really good juice on the negative correlation of Steph scoring points and the Dubs losing. So yeah, I'm actually talking myself into like a Steph 20 plus with the loss for them, and probably getting that maybe like 120, 130. I'd still be happy with that. But that's all the time we have for you in this one. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Give that video a like. Go ahead and check out the player props we have up for you as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.